Welcome to the most listened to golf in the world, the Fairways of Life show, on air, online, and around the world, with the most candid interviews, unforgettable stories, taking you beyond the ropes. Here's your host, New York Times best-selling author Matt Adams.
Well, I think he made enough money to hire a chef. Like, it's like, why are you cooking yourself?
I got a chef. Her name's Meredith. She's pretty cute.
All right, so Rory and Scottie going back and forth this week at Pebble. Obviously, they're talking about the fact that Scottie, this is his first week back because he cut his hand cooking Christmas dinner this year. And so it's all going to happen out at Pebble Beach this week. In fact, Dom and Andrew put together this graphic, which will show you. It shows who's playing when and where. And the asterisk on this graphic shows us who the primary groups will be on ESPN+. These are the featured groups on ESPN+. You can see 11:30. Obviously, this is just a sampling. This is a signature event, so it's a smaller field, but it's still just a sampling. 11:35 a.m., Tom Kim and Colin Morikawa. 11:48, it will be Rory McIlroy and Ludwig Åberg. At 12:01, Scottie Scheffler and Brian Harman. Interesting to me, number one comes back, hasn't been playing for months, and he's not one of the featured groups. That seems a little odd. 12:14, Matt Fitzpatrick and Cam Young. At 12:14, also Tommy Fleetwood and Keegan Bradley. 12:27, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, again, not a featured group. 106, Sahith Theegala and Wyndham Clark. 119, Tony Finau and Max Homa. 132, Victor Hovland and Ricky Fowler. All due respect to those latter two that are featured group. Wouldn't you think that Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, Scottie Scheffler and Brian Harman would be, I don't know, one guy's opinion, it'd be a better pick. Anyway, that's getting underway in earnest. You can catch all that from Thursday onward with the coverage. So we've got tons to go through with you today. Delighted to inform as much. We've got Rory talking from Pebble Beach. We've got Scottie talking from Pebble Beach. In Orlando at the Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions, we've got Nelly Korda. We've got Lydia we got Brooke Henderson, all coming up. In fact, I want to start with world number one, Nelly Korda here, first of all. So last year, this was a great hunting ground for her. Question asked of her, how excited you to be back again? How do you reset your expectations this year? Do you have to? As the LPGA looks for a new commissioner, what's your ideal scenario for the LPGA? All of that, but let's start with the excitement.
You know, it's one of my favorite events of the year, getting to play alongside celebrities, former athletes. So it's a really fun and unique event, and no better way to start off the year than also playing so close to home. I mean, last year is last year. When it comes to defending titles, I mean, the field's different. There's different girls in the field. The weather's different. The golf course could be different. So there's so many variabilities that go into the game of golf when you're defending that just completely changes it. So I try not to take that approach of I'm defending and just take the approach of this is a new week, this is a new opportunity, and I'm prepared. I'm going to prepare my hardest and go into the week with a positive attitude. I mean, when it comes to schedule, just the flow in it, like when we're on the West Coast, having more of a flow in the West Coast schedule of having all our events kind of aligned so we're not traveling from coast to coast in the U.S. Just making, I think, with scheduling, it's just about making it a little easier for us with travel. And then obviously, I mean, trying to grow the game as many ways as possible, being put on primetime TV, people investing in us and seeing our product. I think all you need is an opportunity, and hopefully we can continue getting those.
All right, so Nelly Korda talking about what some of the goals should be for the new commissioner. I mean, the first word that popped in my head there, the reason I paused, was challenges, right? Those are not easy things to overcome. If you look at Mike Wan, who unquestionably was an incredibly successful LPGA commissioner, if you still have stuff on your hit list to say, yeah, we'd like to get more prime time exposure, network exposure. We'd like to have more people pay attention to us and realize how good our product is, so they invest in us. Those are great objectives, worthy objectives for your organization, but where do they stand in the spectrum of what's going on in the world of sport and in the world of golf? And I'm not suggesting that in any way that they don't have merit. What I'm suggesting is that there's a lot of traffic out there. Right? Even when we talk about the comments on the PGA Tour, when you hear from Rory coming up, he was asked about and spoke about yesterday competition. Competition, LIV is competition to the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour is competition to LIV. DP World Tour is competition to both of them. They specifically start to talk about now the eyeballs and the interest that people are getting because they're watching golf content, say, on YouTube. I think I've mentioned to you guys there were 200-plus golf influencers at the PGA show. I'm a believer of letting people consume content, follow their passion in any way they want to. But what does that mean for these leagues? Right? In terms of hearts and minds and where people are going to invest themselves and where companies are going to invest themselves when you talk about dollars, right? And advertising or what have you. So these are big questions that circle around the game. First, here's Lydia Ko, though. Lydia with the season that she had last year. Lydia that has told us she's going to exit the stage as still a relatively young woman, despite how long it seems like she's been out there, still in her 20s, late 20s, she's going to say, I'm done. But as to 2025, where is your mindset? What are your goals?
Yeah, after winning the AIG Women's Open at St. Andrews, I said I would love to do the career Grand Slam. It's hard winning 5 majors. It's hard winning 1 major championship, but to win 5 and it all be different ones, it takes a very small group of people that have done it, and I think the last person that has done it is Imby Park, to my knowledge. So, yeah, if I could be alongside that small group, it'd be pretty amazing. I got to spend a little bit of time with Julie Inkster last year, and she said she won her first U.S. Women's Open after she had her kids, and I was like, wow, is that how far I need to wait? I think she was 39 when she won, and I was like, I can't wait 12 years, Julie. But it's, the U.S. Women's Open is probably the tournament that we, as players, all want to, win and, dream of winning at the end of that Sunday. And, I think because I still have the drive and the motivation to, play the best golf I can while I'm playing, I think it doesn't matter what happened last year. I still know I've got a lot more things to do and achieve and get better at.
Lydia Ko, all of 27 years old. She doesn't even turn 28 until April of 2025. Okay, so we've got a lot of stuff to go through. As I mentioned to you, you're going to be hearing from Scottie Scheffler coming up, world number 1. You're going to be hearing from Rory McIlroy coming up here in the Fairways of Life show today. But there was a lot of noise made. It was with everything else going on. I'll tell you honestly, we didn't have time to deal with it because we were dealing with all the new products coming out for 2025. But Derek Sprague, the new CEO of the PGA of America, had some strong comments to make about I would say more of the prospect, the plan to roll back the distance of the golf ball. I'll save that for when we come back right after this, because I'm curious what you guys feel about that, because I think it's a very, very important subject for everybody to understand all the sides of. Stay with us. More of the Fairways of Life show after this.
I got ball fit in 2000, went on a little run. Then Bridgestone fit me again, and I went on another run. I just got fit again for the new Tour BX. The ball fitting's been helping me. Will it help you?
Every January, PGA Tour Superstore pros meet every manufacturer, learn about the latest equipment, log thousands of hours of training, and together hit over 100,000 balls. All so they can get you the perfect fit.
When you choose Newton shafts, you're choosing more than a product. You're choosing innovation, pride, and excellence right here in America. We pay attention to the minutest of details, and you can feel that in the performance of our shafts.
I think when you're training for other sports, or why most people go to the gym is so that they can have muscles and be strong and be healthy. And a lot of the reason why they struggle to play golf is their body doesn't move properly for them to be able to hit a golf ball. And when you're training for golf, it's a little bit different because you're focused more on flexibility and mobility and being strong in motion. When you're able to kind of have a warm-up and have a workout routine and kind of gradually build up to where you're training your body to move properly, yeah, you're going to get a lot of big dividends on the golf course.
Our journey began with a simple yet powerful vision to provide the world with the highest quality Virginia-type peanuts. The Hubbard Peanut Company, where quality and tradition meet to create an unforgettable experience. Visit hubspeanuts.com to explore our full range of products and place your order today.
Super easy to hit. Introducing the new PXG Black Ops irons, our first game improvement iron.
It's a larger face heel to toe.
It launches the ball high in the air and really far.
Much higher levels of forgiveness. You set that club down, it creates a lot of confidence. It's supported by this X-Core column material.
And that's where you get improved ball speed. If you're looking for a distance, forgiveness, and feel, Black Ops iron is going to be for you.
PXG, nobody makes golf clubs the way we do, period.
Stride by Zero Friction, the first of its kind personal caddy. Walk in comfort and style with Stride's remote and follow me technology. The Stride handles almost any terrain, and its 54-hole range will last all day. The lightweight design and removable front wheels makes it simple to handle. Plus, it easily fits golf carts. Pick up your Stride today at a local PGA Tour Superstore near you or at zerofriction.com/Stride. Stride, your personal caddy.
As we welcome you back to the Fairways of Life show. So, I want to show you, this isn't all the quotes from Derek Sprague, the CEO of the PGA of America, but I want to show you this quote board that we put together from comments that he made. One of them being, I don't know one recreational golfer that wants to hit it shorter. I don't think we want 30 or 40 million golfers to go out and have to buy new golf balls, but buy new equipment to match the new golf balls. So it really puts a burden on the recreational player. He basically had a whole series of quotes where he said, and I'm paraphrasing, the PGA of America was not involved enough in the decision to roll back golf ball technology. So, and we could take this in bits and pieces because I could see the sides aligning on this right now. I saw comments from some people on the network side, of course, who are partners with the USGA, and the first thing that gets done is you attack everybody's motivation. So you attempt to discredit their opinion by attacking the motivation behind it. Who their sponsors are, who they're aligned with, etc., when there is no entity in the game that's more conflicted in the opinions that are expressed than media, of which we are part of, admittedly. So to try to provide some balance to this thing, the USGA and the R&A came out and said that for the good of the game, looking forward 30, 40, 50 years, that they wanted to roll back the technology. The pace of technology was such that the engineers are so good, and they are, that they have affected at the highest levels more and more and more and more distance. Concern being that classic golf courses will become, if they're not already, in some specific cases, obsolete because of the distances that the best in the world are hitting the golf ball. The best in the world because of their athletic ability, because of the better agronomy, because of better training and understanding of dynamics such as spin rates, angles of attacks, etc., are able to dial in their game to such an extent that they're able to fully affect the symphony of technology and equipment such that they can do extraordinary things with it. And the argument that at the current pace that it is going, that it's a question of not only sustainability in terms of the use of current golf courses, but also a question of a test of a full array of a player's ability, because hitting a 5-iron into a green is different than hitting a wedge. All of those concerns have great merit. I support the USGA and the R&A's efforts looking forward decades from now to say, nah, you got to slow this down a little bit. When the proposal came out, it said that it wasn't going to affect the recreational golfer. It was only going to be for elite competitions. Well, in their period in which they had open discussions, it switched from being only for the elite to being for everyone. Now, the presumption is in the marketplace on our side that commercial interest came to fore in that, in going, no, we need recreational golfers to be aspirational in terms of what equipment they play. And if they're playing a different piece of equipment than the best of the best, we need them all playing the same thing. That argument has morphed into an argument of saying we don't want bifurcation, which I think is, personally, I think that's an excuse, because how you define, remember, this is a local rule, proposed local rule, how you define bifurcation, then it already exists. Because the best players in the world right now, by and large, aren't using the equipment that everyone else is using. And if you are one of the everyone else and you want to use the best equipment of the best players in the world, you can do that now, and you could do it under the new proposal. There's nothing stopping you from using a golf ball that would be designed for an elite player that goes a shorter distance, and you want to test yourself against that standard. The problem that I personally have with it, where my divide comes with the philosophy of the governing bodies, which I've said time and time again, I support their objectives, their long-term objectives to slow down technology. But I don't support it for the recreational player. I don't see why the recreational player has to sacrifice a player that is already tremendously challenged off the tee. If you look at the average handicap, and bear in mind that most people who play golf don't have a handicap, so they fall somewhere presumably higher than the average. But the average is 15. That average very quickly drops below 200 yards. How much more are we going to penalize that golfer because of the distances that the best in the world are hitting their golf ball? Why do we have to acquiesce to the commercial concerns in saying, no, the average guy has to pay their fair share? Why? The game at the recreational level is booming, but everyone that comes into the game will sit back and scratch your head and go, man, this game is tough. Okay, well, we're going to make it tougher for you because of how far so-and-so hits the ball. But wait a minute, I'm struggling to get home in 2 on most of the par 4s. Yeah, we know that, but still. So there's the problem with it, and this is where people on social media, if I ever say anything about it, they'll come back and go, what are you talking about? The average player is not going to be impacted at all. It's only going to impact the best players. And I scratch my head when I hear that, because that's somebody else reading off a cue sheet of a press release instead of asking the questions, how does that make sense with physics? How does that really make sense? If you have a slower club head speed and you're going to smash your club head into the back of a slower golf ball, how is that going to equate to the same or more or whatever that's being put out there? So my first reaction is more testing is what really needs to be done. I get that Martin Slumbers was a powerful personality. The most recently, he was the most recent CEO of the R&A. He's left, and I get that he was a powerful personality. I get that this was a high agenda of his. I understand that, and I respect that too. That he really felt like this was an initiative that needed to be taken up on the game's behalf, and I don't disagree with him. I mean, I'm involved in all the technology all the time. You guys know it. And I won't deny either that I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's incredible to me, the ingenuity of the people that design golf equipment. But I also don't have a problem with saying, well, let's just slow it down a little bit. For elite competitions, let's make the guardrails a little bit tighter. I don't see anything wrong with that. The game of golf has evolved and gotten better, and the equipment's gotten better, and the players have gotten longer through its entire existence. Well, so too, in fairness, have the constraints on what equipment can do and can't do. It hadn't got as tight as it could have gotten and should have gotten. And again, the two people that govern that are the R&A and the USGA. And they'll admit that to you. They'll say, yeah, we know. We know we left it open. The horse got out of the barn. So the debate's coming because you've got Derek Sprague, who's the CEO of the PGA of America, and he implied in a separate interview that the PGA Tour is of the same mindset, where they're not really on board with this. Now, bear in mind, the PGA of America controls the American half of the Ryder Cup, but they also host their own major, the PGA Championship. All right, so if you had the Open, the U.S. Open, and the Masters all using a reduced distance golf ball, and then you'd have the PGA maybe not using one, that would be a little odd. The PGA Tour is their own league. They can do whatever they want. If they want to say, yeah, we're not adopting a local rule, they can do it. They have that power. So an edict by golf's governing bodies doesn't mean that it's going to happen. The PGA of America, which represents the 30,000 PGA professionals at the local clubs, could have great influence on those said facilities going, yeah, we don't think this is in the best interest of our membership. This comes back to that question that I ask you guys all the time. Who is speaking for you? Who is looking out for you? Who has your best interests in mind and not simply measuring you as a source of revenue? So it's complicated. And the interesting thing about it is that with Derek speaking up the way that he did as the incoming CEO, bear in mind, Derek is a PGA professional. He's a former president of the organization. Now he's the CEO. Really unique path. And I'm very proud of him with what he's accomplished and what he's doing. I'm proud whenever somebody has the courage on that forum to publicly say something that's outside of the back room. And Derek Sprague is saying, nah, we're not comfortable with this. Now, my interpretation in the full context of his words is that it appears as though they're against it altogether. And that may be unfair for me to come to that conclusion. Maybe they're okay with it, as is my perspective, to say, no, it's an ongoing concern. Just start to rein in the the parameters a little bit, not as much as being proposed, because it would basically make illegal essentially every premium golf ball that's out there right now. Every one. I've seen some accounts that said it would make non-conforming every golf ball going back to 2000, every premium one. I mean, it's crazy stuff out there. But what I'm saying is we shouldn't be guessing. We shouldn't be sitting here talking about speculation. How much is the new golf ball going to impact slower swing players on the PGA Tour? Maybe you hear that and you go, who cares? Everyone digs the long ball. Well, the longest hitters are still going to be the longest hitters by far, but they may have now an unfair proportion because physics, the greater inbound the force, the greater outbound velocity. Again, I have this funny thing where I kind of feel like, the top players in the world, no matter what the obstacle is, they're going to figure it out. But how are we approaching something from a philosophical standpoint? Fine. But how are we approaching it without any science behind it that we're aware of, that we've seen? I read the reports. I saw the small sample surveys that they did in this course and that one. Why not use the data that's coming in from places like Arcos and, where you've got millions of data points that you can study? Why not seed out the proposed golf ball at every level of the game and get real data? And then come back and tell the world of the virtues of taking distance away from a 15 handicap that's struggling to hit it 200 yards off the tee. And then they say it, and it's almost, honestly, there's almost an arrogance involved in it, in my view, as a golf course operator as well, to say, we'll just move up a tee. Seriously, go to most golf courses, right? The 14,000 facilities and the 16,000 plus golf courses. Go to most of them and go to the regular tee, the men's regular tee, and see if there's room. It will be on some, but not all. I'm dead serious. Do this on your own, or think about it where you play, because I realize it's wintertime and a lot of golf courses are covered in snow and ice right now. But think about it for a second. For the claims that are made of how much yardage the average golfer would lose, which generally they're going to tell you about 15 yards. Or 15, is it feet? Yeah, 15, 20 feet. So say 5 yards. Okay. First of all, that's a lot. If we were on the other side talking about you gaining that much distance off the tee, you'd be clicking your heels together. But somehow when we talk about it as losing that much distance, the way it's being projected from the PR standpoint is to say, yeah, well, it's just, we can all live with that. Just move the tee up. Okay, seriously, do what I'm asking you to do. I'm not trying to make an argument here. I'm seriously saying, think about it for a second. See if there's room. Right? And if you find room, if you find that much space on the average tee box, on the average golf course in the USA, okay, great. I can tell you it's not all of them, but okay, great. Now do the same thing on the women's tee box, because in this conversation, everybody's forgetting about the women. The average distance for the average women is 156 yards. Their tee boxes are already in the wrong place. Now tell me if you've got that same distance in front of their tees. I already know the answer. They don't. Because for the vast majority of golf courses, the women tees were an afterthought to begin with. So one of the arguments that you'll hear with this whole thing is you'll hear about the environmental sustainability argument. Right? And that argument is if distance continued at its current rate at an elite level, then golf courses would have to be built to, say, 8,000 yards or more. That's true. That's true. The problem is the way information can be taken and used to manipulate discussions. The presumption that those 16,000 golf courses all need to be built to a standard for elite competitions is ridiculous. So the argument that a rollback in the current technology, I'm not talking about, I'm for a slowdown of technology moving forward. I'm against taking it backwards on a recreational level. So the arguments that somehow a golf operator, and remember, I have that expertise in having done that. I lived that life. It's not theory to me. I wasn't sitting on a committee or a board. I actually did it. So the theory that somehow the rollback of the golf ball will require us to cut less grass or to use, more importantly, less water doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. The theory that somehow playing a shorter golf ball will somehow increase the pace of play, again, I mean, I'll leave that to you guys, but can you tell me how that increases the pace of play? Is the shortest hitter in your group the fastest player? Does anything about this proposed technology change mean that you won't slice the ball into trouble? So if you're slicing it a shorter distance than you were before, that's going to somehow equate to the round being played faster? So there's nothing that I'm telling you right now that you guys haven't heard me complain about before. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be honest with you in terms of what I feel and where I stand with this, but at the same time trying to present to you a balanced argument, which again I'm going to reiterate. I support the USGA and the R&A's efforts to slow down technology moving forward. They said 20, 30, 40, up to 50 years. I get it. And I get that the elite players are doing elite things. So the argument is, do you recognize that? Do you accept that? And you say, when in golfing terms, those players are superhuman. Let them do their thing. If you want to put some kind of guardrails on those players, make greater consequences for missed shots, spin, etc. But to achieve the objectives of where we stand right now and the intention of the USGA and the R&A to roll back the technology, it seems to me that what they were attempting to achieve was based on a philosophy, which I support, but not based upon science, which I don't support. I think we need more testing done, real science done, not an expression of opinions, not the influence of people that have great commercial interest in which way this goes one way or the other, but an actual science. Instead of telling people that it will have little impact, which is a relative term, on the recreational golfer, let's know. It's a golf ball, and these are golf clubs. Put them out there. Test. Get your data. Know exactly what we're talking about. What impact will it have on golf? We've seen there's a few professionals, Lucas Glover, one of them, that said he was testing with the new golf ball. Where he got it from, no idea. We don't have that information. And he said the impact was very, very dramatic. Keegan Bradley implied the same thing. Again, it doesn't surprise me because it's physics. I'm not relying upon press releases or relying upon graphs that someone sends out and says, yeah, this will be what we estimate. Get the data. Actually know. Be able to say. If you're worried about cost, then put people in a position where they say, well, here's a new ball. If you want to test it, it's costs $1 for the ball, whatever. I don't know. But I don't think this thing is over, and it as it's currently structured, I don't think it's good for the game. I think the philosophy is good for the game. The end objectives, I support. It's good for the game. But how we get there right now is crossing pathways that are taking from people who don't have anything to give. That's odd to me. Dom, when we were setting up the show today, did you go down this road with your question of the day?
Distance should be reduced. Yes, it should. No, it shouldn't. Or yes, it should, but only for the pros.
Okay.
And the current status is 17%. 17 say yes, let's reduce the golf ball.
Okay.
52% say no. And 30% say yes, but only for the pros. So you could technically argue 82% of people are saying leave the amateurs alone. And there's a few comments have come in. There's a lot, but I'll read a few here for you. The rollback is stupid. Someone writes straight to the point. If ball speed is not limited, before long the tour pros will be hitting it 400 yards. That ruins the game. I think that speaks to a little bit of what you were talking about, Matt, with regards to the long-term nature of rolling back just the professional side, where, yeah, I do think in 20 years we could have a problem. So I'm okay with, I don't know, you tell me, a 0.5% rollback or something for just the professional.
Well, no, it would be, it doesn't actually work in that way. What it does is it starts to limit the COR, which is the coefficient of restitution, which is the outbound energy, maximum outbound energy allowed against the inbound energy, that proportion. So yeah, that the only issue that I have with, and there's nothing wrong with what that person said, but the only issue I have with it is that when people are ardently for the rollback of a golf ball amongst the elite players of the world, they get so passionate about how those players are impacting the game as they perceive it, or the game as they know it, or the game as they want it to be, that they're willing to allow all the other collateral damage of saying, yeah, I get it that it affects you guys, but we have to do it, because if we don't, they're going to be hitting it 400-plus yards with regularity. But what about the guy that's struggling to hit it 200 yards? Yeah, but still, the pros, the best, right? So, and I'm sitting here saying, I agree with that person, that I don't agree with my microphone not working right today. That you can see it moving around as I'm talking. I agree with that person that the best players in the world, if they continue at the pace that they're at, it will obsolete golf courses. So, okay, I'm all right with that. I don't think the PGA Tour and I don't think the PGA of America agree with what I'm saying. But
you okay over there?
No, I can't fix this thing. As I'm talking to you, my microphone's not working.
Well, here, Matt can try and do that while I read a few more comments.
Yeah, give me
here.
some
Matt's
comments while you can keep me on camera. I don't care. They can see me fixing the microphone. Hand me that screwdriver.
So Paul writes, zero reason that amateurs should have to use reduced ball speed, he says.
Okay, but then ask the question, if that's the case, then why are they included in this restriction? Right? Why?
Well, I think that's the complaint, Matt. Kevin writes,
no.
Remember
Answer your question.
Okay.
You think that's a complaint? What do you think the reason is? Why do you think recreational golfers are involved now?
You mean in that comment, or why are we involved in the rollback at all?
To have gone from saying it's not going to affect you, this is only for the elite players, now you're part of it. Now you have to give. Why?
What do you mean? Are you talking about the audience? Are you talking about what do you?
I'm asking your opinion as to why recreational golfers now have to give up distance.
Oh, they shouldn't. I mean, my opinion is this whole thing is stupid.
I'm not asking you. I didn't ask
you
your opinion of that. I asked you why they're now included in the restriction.
I don't know why.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get at, Dob. It's okay to say I don't know. I don't know whether you were reticent to say that, but the reason why I asked you that question so many times is because I don't think anybody knows why they're having to do this.
Well, I think the real reason is, and I can't speak for them, but there's an inherent, which is what I was complaining about earlier, about how this is what's wrong with golf, the not wanting to ever change anything. I think the problem is they want to keep it together. They don't want the game, the governing bodies. They don't want any kind of bifurcation. They want
it's not
golf
a bifurcation.
To
See, that's all noise to try to push through the PR effort. The reality is the reason why recreational golfers are now involved, I said it earlier, in what's happening is because of money. It's because of commerce. It's because of sales of product. That's the reason why. What else you got?
Sorry. I'm doing a lot of things here. Very busy. All right. Kevin writes, remember the pro sport is 100% supported by the amateurs and the general public. If you make the public leave the game, so much for the pro game. Is that true, Matt? Is it true that 100% of the pro game is supported by the amateurs? Because I kind of feel like TV rights deals and commercials is, and you know, that's how it's that's how it exists, right?
You're not right. He's right. Why do you think TV's paying a huge rights fees? Right now, where they're talking about ratings down on golf, what do you think the networks that paid the huge rights fees or to the tour are saying? They're going, hey, are we getting our value? Well, how do you measure the value? You measure the value by eyeballs. Those advertisers you talked about, who do you think they're trying to advertise to? So the 99.99% ultimately are the lifeblood behind everything else that takes place, which is why I'm constantly on my soapbox saying, who represents them? Who speaks for them in these back rooms, at those tables of power, in the ecosystem? Who represents the people that are behind it all? And that's why in yesterday's show, or the day before, I can't remember, we were talking about what's going on with ratings, and I said, this is a power play unlike anything that's ever taken place before in the world of golf, at least from a mass media side, where the people are speaking through their actions. What else you got, Tom?
PA Southern says, pros should use special limited distance balls only.
Okay.
I feel like this situation is extremely complicated, and I don't understand why it's complicated. How is this not the easiest thing ever? You want to do stuff with professionals, do whatever you want to do with the professionals. You know, let the amateurs do whatever they want. I don't understand. Why is this so complicated? Like, you talked for like 15 minutes about all these layers. Like, isn't this the simplest, stupidest thing ever? Oh, the best players are hitting it too far. Okay, so let's make it so the best players don't. What is there to discuss here? It's not complicated.
Because you got to remember, there are entities, as we've just learned, Derek Sprague, the new CEO of the PGA of America, who is a PGA professional himself, a former president of the organization, is going, we don't think there's a distance problem here. Let's sit down and talk about this. Let's define what the problem is, and let's figure out a path forward. Right? You've got the PGA Tour, which he's implied are not in favor of this. I just saw a quote from Justin Thomas from, I think, the 15th of this month, where he said, we're trying to solve a problem here that doesn't exist. So you got the tour pros that are saying, no, we don't want to be rolled back, which continues to make me wonder if maybe the way forward here is to figure out a way to say, no, we're drawing a line in the sand. Right? Maybe, I don't know. But again, the reason why part of it is because I have an interest in what happens at the top tier at the tour level. Absolutely. Having already said that I support the USGA and the R&A's objectives moving forward, decades from now. But at the same time, I kind of look at it and go, I don't really feel like the vast majority of us have a dog in that fight. Right? Whereas the significant part of this proposal, which is being brushed aside as being a non-issue, is the one that this proposal is going to impact 100% of players if something isn't done. 100%. All of you are now having to sacrifice distance because of how far the best of the best are hitting it. So that's where I'm having my issue, because it kind of goes down the line to what Don was saying, where to say, you know what, at the top tier, they're going to figure it out. If for no other reason, as I already mentioned to you, they own their own leagues. They can make whatever rules they want. But if a rule is adopted and it's compelled upon the entirety of the game, as this is being presented, it's not a proposal, folks, by the way. Let me make that perfectly clear. This is slated to happen. And so, it's 2028 for the elite players and the 2030 for the rest.
But for clarity, Matt, if they have arguments amongst the governing bodies, like if Derek pushes it and it gets, goes back into boardrooms, they can undo this before those days, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
they can decide to change the thing that's already been approved.
Yeah, it's not an amendment.
Go back
it's not something that's going to take some, we all have to go out and cast ballots.
Yeah, I wanted just clarity on that, because I think, like, this is supposed to, like you said, start in 2028 and then start in, you're having microphone problems. You start in 2028. So the microphone is like, stop. Will you stop talking about this?
Yeah.
Stop talking.
Yeah.
Stop.
Maybe they want us to.
Shut up.
Do you have anything else you want to read from the people?
There's plenty we could go over with, but I know there's a lot of stuff coming in from Rory and Scottie. I want to get to that today on the show while we still have time. So we'll leave it here, and I will give you an update before we go, because we should go to break here, on the question of the day, which is, of course, related to all of this. Do you think golf ball distance should be reduced? Yes, no, or yes, but only for the pros. Yes is now down further to 14%. No, 59% say no. And 28% say yes, but only for the pros. So it's now up at 87%, Matt, of the people are like, again, I would say they're saying, leave me alone, will you?
Again, my issue with this thing comes down to the same thing I keep saying to you guys. Okay, so we're doing a survey right now, and we're getting back these kind of numbers. Has anybody else asked you? Right? Who is speaking for you? That's why when I had a chance to see Derek, and I saw him at the PGA show, I told him how proud I am of him. And I told him that I really hope that he embraces the role of being the voice for the people who play this game. Because for better or for worse, and I'm sorry if this is insulting to people, to the organizations, I think each organization speaks for themselves to protect their interest, to protect their place in the golf ecosystem, their piece of the pie. All right, Dom's telling me we should break and come back with sound coming from Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy out of Pebble Beach. Stay with us.
In Ireland, golf is more than just a game. Come and experience our world-famous links courses and our world-famous Parkland courses, all set alongside world-famous scenery and visit our world-famous historic sites. And while you're here, enjoy our world-famous hospitality. Fill your heart with Ireland at ireland.com/golf.
Ben Hogan Golf Equipment is back. Established in 1953, we serve golfers who demand excellence of their equipment. Designed by the game's best engineers, forged in the world's best foundries, and built to order in the USA. Don't settle for off-the-rack disappointment. Elevate your game with custom clubs at direct consumer pricing. Exclusively at benhogangolf.com. That's benhogangolf.com.
The best feeling iron I've ever hit. Introducing the new Gen 7 irons, the greatest leap forward in irons technology, in performance, in PXG history. Our new quantum core material explodes off the face. Are you kidding me? The Gen 7 irons deliver groundbreaking new levels of forgiveness, speed, distance, and feel. That's what I'm talking about right there. Look at that trajectory. Just phenomenal. Gen 7. It doesn't get any better.
PXG, nobody makes golf clubs the way we do, period.
Baseball? Nah. Football? Done it. I think I'm gonna go after the PGA Tour.
Playing on the PGA Tour is not easy. But you know what is easy? Hitting the 524 series from Tour Edge.
Hitting linebackers and home runs used to be easy.
Out here, you're gonna need all the easy you can get. Introducing the 524 series from Tour Edge. The easiest clubs you'll ever hit. Even the best players in the world can use a little easy.
I like the sound of that. Look out, PGA Tour.
Pound for pound, nothing comes close.
What would your ultimate golf experience be like? Just you and a friend? Or would you round up some buddies for a foursome? Just one day? Or an entire week? There's a good chance your ultimate golf experience could be Michigan's magnificent 10. 10 incredible courses set among 3 remarkable resorts. See for yourself. Book your ultimate golf experience today.
Our journey began with a simple yet powerful vision to provide the world with the highest quality Virginia-type peanuts. The Hubbard Peanut Company, where quality and tradition meet to create an unforgettable experience. Visit hubspeanuts.com to explore our full range of products and place your order today.
Every January, PGA Tour Superstore pros meet every manufacturer, learn about the latest equipment, log thousands of hours of training, and together hit over 100,000 balls. All so they can get you the perfect fit.
When you choose Newton shafts, you're choosing more than a product. You're choosing innovation, pride, and excellence right here in America. We pay attention to the minutest of details, and you can feel that in the performance of our shafts.
Yeah, so tech-wise and numbers-wise, look, I've had the same concerns, I guess, just from, I hadn't obviously played a match, but I went in there on Wednesday, and I brought 2 other launch monitors with me. I brought my GC Quad, I brought my TrackMan, and obviously hitting balls into the screen, and every number was virtually identical. So I that put my concerns to bed, which was really good. I hit balls in there for 90 minutes. I think the big thing for us is, like, you're hitting into a screen. It's obviously a big screen, but when you're playing outside, you've got some sort of connection to the target, right? You've got, this is what we grew up doing. This is what we know. So when you get in there, it's very difficult or hard to be like, okay, I'm going to aim, on the right half of the screen or the left half of the screen and trust that it's actually going to do what you want it to do. And that was, Adam was in there for the first time on Saturday, and I was in there with him, and I said, like, you have to really try to treat this as if you're playing outside, because you hit it on that right half of the screen and try to hit a draw, like, it will come back. If you hit a fade on the left side of the screen, and it will come back. It's just getting more reps in there to familiarize yourself and trust it. I think is the big thing. And the more and more that we play in there, the more we're going to get used to it and be comfortable.
Bunker shots.
Bunker shots are So in the arena, as the night goes on, and like say the humidity drops in there, they have to water the sand quite a lot to keep the moisture in it, to keep it. So like they get to water it before the game is played, but then once we get in there, it starts to dry up. So the bunker shot that I hit last night, it felt like my club was going through flour instead of going through sand. So look, these are all the things that you learn on the fly, and like this is a startup. It's 4 weeks old, So yeah, we've had time to prepare and we've done everything we can, but it's a learning process as we go along, and I think each and every week it's got a little better, and I obviously think last night was the best one so far, and hopefully we just keep improving as we go on. I think it already has been diminished. I would say, look, the one thing about like TGL is only going to last 2 months, so you get this sort of big burst of it in January, February, into a little bit of March, and then it's done. So it's gone for 10 months basically. So I'd say that is hopefully somewhat additive to the ecosystem. YouTube is like golf entertainment adjacent and whatever, and it's those guys they're killing it. They found a niche, and it's really cool, and it serves a purpose for a lot of people. But like I would much rather sit down and watch real golfers play real tournaments, and that's just my opinion. That to me is more entertaining. So, but I understand that other people want something different, and that's totally fine as well. So I think there's space for all of this. But yeah, I can see when the golf consumer might get a little fatigued of everything that's sort of available to them. So to scale it back a little bit and maybe have a little more scarcity in some of the stuff that we do, like the NFL, I think mightn't be a bad thing.
Season debut, it's a little weird making it this late in the year, but good to be back. Everything's feeling good. Yeah, it's nice to be here at Pebble. I mean, definitely excited to play. Feeling well rested. So overall, feeling good. There was a lot of sitting around at first, but after that, I was able to get moving fairly quickly. But I definitely it was good and bad. It was frustrating to be sitting at home, not being able to play golf, but we got some good time at home. Just us three. It's pretty rare for me to be at home throughout the day without really having much to do. I couldn't really work out at first. There wasn't really a whole lot I could do, so it was nice, uninterrupted time for us at home, but it was definitely still frustrating, watching golf on TV and not being able to play. Last week, at the beginning of the week, I kind of, made more of a conscious effort to hit a lot of balls when I was first getting back into it, just because everything had healed properly, and I was in a good spot and got some freedom from the doctor, and basically I wanted to push myself pretty hard at home to make sure that I wouldn't have a flare up here on the road, if that makes sense. And so kind of try to work out some of that soreness and the scar tissue and stuff that goes in there after surgery. So I tried to push myself pretty hard in the cold last week, and it continued to get better and better each day. And so I figured I might as well come back out and start playing. Well, so like when you make raviolis, we wanted to make them from scratch, and so you like roll the dough and you got to cut the dough. But we were at a rental house, so we didn't have the right tools, and the only thing there was a wine glass that we found, and I had my hand on top of it and it broke. Which, side note, I've heard nothing but horror stories since this happened about wine glasses. So be careful. Even if you're like me and you don't drink wine, you got to be real careful with wine glasses. But yeah, so it broke, and the stem kind of got me in the hand. So it's one of those deals where, it's truly, I can't live in a bubble. Got to live my life, and accidents happen, and it could have been a lot worse. I actually talked to somebody who did the exact same thing, and the stem went straight through their hand. And so it's one of those deals where immediately after it happened, I was mad at myself because I was like, gosh, that was so stupid, but you just don't think about it when you're in the moment. And I've definitely been a little bit more careful doing stuff at home. But
and then after that happened, did you immediately go to the emergency room? Or
No. I have a friend at home who's a surgeon, and he helped us stop the bleeding. And then it really wasn't like terrible, but I knew I kind of messed something up just because the way my hand wasn't really moving much, and if I did, it hurt pretty bad, and so I kind of knew something was up. And we were planning on leaving the next day anyway, so since it didn't continue bleeding, we stopped the bleeding pretty quickly. I mean, it was maybe 15 minutes or so, and got hold of a guy who helped me with my thumb about 10 years ago. I had a hand guy at home who works with my friend who's a hip surgeon, and he kind of helped facilitate what to do. And then he was actually out of town, so I had another guy at home do the surgery that we referred to, and he did a great job. I was able to heal pretty quickly, and I'm just very thankful that the community around me at home kind of sprung into action pretty quick and got the ball rolling. I'm sure my friends didn't want to help me stop the bleeding in my hand on Christmas Day, but they jumped into action pretty quick, and they were able to help me really fast. I'm really, really thankful for the support system at home. I think in terms of like reflection, since I did have some more off time at home, I did go back and watch a bit of the tournaments that it played in, and I wasn't necessarily watching the finishes, but I was just kind of watching, throughout the course of the event, and just thinking about what I was feeling at the time and how my brain was working, and just kind of going over things to remind myself of the tournaments and stuff, because I really do have my memory is not that great, and so a lot of the shots and a lot of the way the tournaments went, I remember the last bit of it, but I didn't remember what led to the point of being in the lead or close to the lead. So it was good to go back and watch some speed rounds and stuff like that, just to see how I managed my way around the course and stayed patient. And there's a few tournaments I look back at that I was the thing that stuck out the most was that I never really overreacted to stuff. I kind of stayed in it and kind of waited for my moment to get hot, and sometimes I got hot and was able to get up the leaderboard and win, and then other times, I didn't, and I still had a decent finish. So most of it was just reminding myself of how to kind of play tournament golf, just because I've been off for a bit. I mean, it's a simple way to put it, but I think having like superior control of my golf ball, I think, is what enabled me to not make a lot of mistakes, and that's knowing, like, having a good feel for my swings at, so I know how to manage my way around the course, playing the appropriate shot. And I made plenty of mistakes, but I think it's more about managing where the miss is. And when I have a really good feel for where the club is, where I did for a lot of last season, I'm able to really work my way around the golf course. And, it's a lot simpler than just not making a mistake. And, it's easy to say play it to the middle of the green, but at the end of the day, you got to hit the shots. And I think at times last year I just had really good control of my ball, and that's how I was able to avoid the mistakes. The reason why I always watch sports is to see the competition. And like when I think about the football games this weekend, I was so excited to watch great competition, great teams going against each other. And so when I think about something that would be good for the game of golf, I think the more we can get back into the competition of things, I think that's what's best. And when you have great players going at it, I think that's what's interesting about sports. Like, people tune into Tiger because he's a great player. And Tiger, his golf clubs always did his talking for him. He wasn't going out and trying to do anything extra or try and put on a show. He was going out there to compete and play golf. And it was electric at times because he would kind of go nuts when things would go well. But he also was really, really good at going crazy and getting right back into a different state of mind like that. And that's something that I try not to get too amped or too calmed down, because, I try to stay as even keel. Tiger was like a crazy person when it went, like, you'd see him go nuts, and then by the time he'd get his ball to the hole, and it was like, psh, like that. And so I try to not turn down many media requests. I always come in, do press conference each week. I very rarely will ever turn down interviews after the round. I think being open and honest when you're answering questions is always a good thing. I try to be as honest as possible, but there are certain aspects of my life that I like to keep private. I never strive to be an entertainer. I always loved playing golf. And, this is what I love to do, is come out here and compete. And if people want to watch and enjoy, then, come on out and have a good time. But I'm not going to put on a show or do anything crazy to try to get more people to watch me. I'm just trying to come out here and do my thing. But I think Justin did bring up some good points about being open to doing a bit more stuff. But at the end of the day, I think what people like is competition. And I think the more we can stop talking about all the other BS that's going on in the game of golf, the more we can get back into, we're playing Pebble Beach this week, and, I'm sure a lot of the media a lot of the talking points in here about pace of play and TGL and all this other stuff. And we're playing Pebble Beach this week. It's one of the most beautiful, iconic golf courses in the world, and we got some of the best players in the world here competing. Like, let's soak that in.
Yeah. All right, so interesting stuff there from Rory and from Scottie. Kind of takeaway stuff. The stuff that Rory was talking about with TGL, the thing about the bunkers amazed me because they're using the same type of sand grain in those bunkers as Augusta uses. And what he's saying is that they water them before the event. And then once the event kicks off with, inside this building with the air conditioning, obviously climate control, low humidity as a result, it dries out that sand. And he was saying that when he was hitting out of it, it felt like he was hitting out of like powder. It was difficult to make the shots. And we saw it multiple times where players were struggling to hit from the bunkers. I still think the green complex at TGL, they need to continue to tweak. I don't think that the surface that they're using reacts the way a golf ball reacts in reality. We were talking about Jeff Sluman was agreeing with that yesterday when he was giving his discussion about how the green complex in general, whether it's chipping or whether it's putting. But again, as you saw, the putting got a lot better on Monday night. So that's the best of the best of the best. They're already figuring it out. I was watching TV. I was also listening to it on the radio side, and I heard John McGinnis speculating that he thinks that they may have changed the lighting so the guys can see it better and pick up some of the subtle perceived breaks better than they could see previously. It's interesting if that's the case as well. Rory was also talking about he thinks that that less is more, that they have too many events on the PGA Tour. What happens, and it was kind of a golfing arms race over the last few years leading up to LIV, where they kept making these big events, in essence, forcing players to play. And I think that's why we saw an uptick of injuries in golf, and maybe still so. But Rory said he played 26 times last year, which was too much for him. Tiger, if I remember correctly, he probably played somewhere 18 to 22, so call it 20 times, if you please. Right? And Rory maintains a global schedule. So you got to do what's right for an individual player. But on the other side of that, where Rory's saying, less is more with the big events, okay. But I also wonder if you're going to take that approach, you still can have events. They're just events like we have on a Corn Ferry Tour or a non-signature event where we know that you're not going to have the top tier players. But if there's an appetite for it, if people still want to consume that, then why not have it? That's, I guess, a discussion for another day. The stuff with Scottie that was fascinating to me was the details of the surgery. When he had his hand, he sat on a wine glass, and it broke, and it stabbed him, and glass pieces were in his hand, and they had to get removed. That was pretty amazing to me, that it was to that level, right? The other stuff that he was talking about that last was a reporter asked him the question about how to react to JT's letter and about, putting yourself out there. And we heard it from Nelly at the beginning. We heard it from him. And both of them, respective world number ones, that have a reticence to being out there. And both of them have been, Nelly, by the likes of Stacey Lewis and others, that said, no, we need more from her. Right, and then you just heard from Scottie, well, I'm a golfer, not an entertainer. That's kind of a common refrain. Rory was touching on it too. I'm a golfer, not an entertainer. Where I think on some level, and it has to settle in on all parties, I don't know whether JT's philosophy or the wants of the people is such that, you have to go out there and do a soft shoe. You're still out there because of your ability to play. It's just opening up your world a little bit because the players tend to build walls around themselves personally. Then they go out and do what they do publicly. And I think it's more about just like you tell me, Dom, because I haven't seen them all. Has Scottie done anything with Full Swing, the Netflix series, yet?
I don't recall. I watched the I've watched all the series on Netflix, and it sort of all kind of blends together for me. I honestly don't.
Well, they've done
remember.
2
He
seasons
may
so far.
have.
They got a third one coming out, I think, next month.
Yeah, no, true. Yes, correct. I just don't remember. I'm sure that he has. Most of the guys did.
I don't remember
There's
him
only a
if he
handful
has
that
or not.
didn't.
Maybe somebody check the messages coming in from people could tell us. But that I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm just saying that's like part of, if there's some way that you can kind of show more of who you are through that medium or others, there's plenty of opportunities. But maybe that's another thing. So I don't think anyone's saying that, you have to go out and do karaoke with everybody, but just show a little bit more of who you are.
Well, the other thing they both talked about, which you touched on, which I'm just curious your thoughts on, is the amount of events, professional events. I don't care how you define that. A professional golfer should or should not be playing per year. I'm just curious, should that number have changed? Because while you're talking, I'm looking up Jeff Sluman, who we had on the program. For 15 years, he basically averaged 31 or 32 events a year. And this is in like the 90s.
Yeah.
And I feel like now the guys are talking about playing, well, I really shouldn't be playing more than 21 or what. That's like 10 less events.
It's hard. You can't compare it to somebody like Jeff because he was a madman. I mean, you'd have to compare it if you're talking about.
Well, give me someone else.
Jack
in the 90s.
Nicklaus, Tiger Woods. No,
Okay.
Jack's
You
hard to look
talk
in the
while I look
90s
that up.
because he didn't play as much
Well,
then.
why? That's a terrible example. Those are like the best players who ever lived.
Isn't that the standard that it was being measured against? I mean, Scottie was literally talking about Tiger Woods in his comments. That's who he referenced. But if
wait a second. How can you use that as a benchmark if you're a traditional player on the tour? Scottie might be an unfair example again because you're talking about the elite of the elite of the
Right.
elite. For guys ranked 5th to 40th, how can you measure against
again,
Tiger?
that's a different.
Well, I should only be playing 18
But that's a different
events
conversation because when Rory's the one who brought it up. He's also elite of elite. Rory doesn't have to play, aside from being lifetime exempt. But even on top of that, he doesn't have to play. Those other guys that you're talking about, particularly because in 26 we go from 125 down to 100 exempt, you've got players that have to play. They have to play to try to keep their card. Think about the guys that went through Q School. Think about the guys that went through Korn Ferry Tour. Think about the guys to make sure they have playing privileges. Then it doesn't matter who cares if you're tired? Who cares if your back hurts? Who cares about anything other than the fact that if you want to be at this level, you got to play. Then you got the top players in the world who happen also to be the players that everybody wants. And like I said, a few years back, everything was structured in such a way that it was really hard for them to say no. It was more than just a big purse. It was how points were structured, and this equals to that. It was about having to be out there. So if you want to look
Tiger
up,
and Jack played similarly, by the way.
18?
I mean, I can't average it like actually math-wise, but I would say the average is probably 18. 18, maybe 19. For both Jack and Tiger on average for a full season when they're healthy.
So if you're looking at a player that's a top player, but he's not, top 5 world, look up Billy Horschel last year. Now, Billy Horschel is also a global player. He likes to go over and play in the DP World Tour. He had a great Open, nearly won the thing. But take a look at somebody like Billy.
So Billy is playing again. I think it's a bad example
Okay.
because I don't have his info for the DP World Tour. Because remember, for the DP World Tour, he's probably playing, what would you say, 4 a year, 5? A year?
Well, I
Maybe
mean, the
more.
Open's going to count on that tour as well. I would say probably 3 more to whatever your number is.
Okay, so it's a heavy average then. 26, 27, 28, 28, 20, 27, 26, 22, 25. You add 3 or 4 to that, you're close to 30.
Okay, so he's a player that
On
likes
an
to play a
average.
lot. It's all right.
Well, I guess you could reframe the question.
I didn't ask the
and
question.
say-
You asked the question.
Well, if you reframe the question, my question about, say, Rory and Scottie as an example, how many tournaments should they play a year?
I don't know how you come up with that number.
Is that answer based on what they want to do or based on what is required for entertainment value for the golf audience?
Well, see, that's the whole definition I'm trying to make here is that I think that the message once again becomes morphed, and generally people morph messages to suit their agenda. I don't think people are saying you need to play more and entertain us more. All I think he's saying is you need to let us see more of who you are. I don't know what the answer is or how it works with an individual player. These guys have teams of people around them. Have somebody who's like a social media manager and give bits and pieces here and there where you feel comfortable. Right? Because what it all comes down to is, for the people that are out there going, they don't have to do that. They have every right to protect their privacy. That's fine too. But what we're getting right now, the reason why you have a top player who formerly also built walls around himself, the top players say, nah, we need to give a little bit more, is because the audience is starting to shrug their shoulders. We hear it all the time. You get it from the comments that are coming in when people go, professional golf is boring. Professional golfers are boring. Well, the nature of what they do, yeah. You just heard Scottie talking about how he tries to keep his emotions at an even keel. If we need any higher evidence of that, look about where he went from a jail cell to going out and playing in a major championship. I think caught up with him. I think the emotions and all the rest made him tired, and it did eventually catch up with him. But that was probably one of the few things that kept him from a historic year. And then you saw the character of Scottie Scheffler by not pursuing the issue further. I think it could have been a huge embarrassment for Louisville and their police department when all the information came out. From what we saw as it was with the video that was taken from various angles, it seemed like a massive overreaction. And it seemed to have a lot more to do with other things. Anyway, great show, great day. Looking forward to being with you guys next week. We got more on the way for you and more fun stuff. Next week on our national show, we've got the nationally syndicated show this weekend. So as I always like to say, check your local listings on that. But our national broadcast next week, we're going to take a deep dive into really understanding everything that we're talking about. We get a tremendous response from you guys when we do equipment stuff, which is really cool because obviously a lot of you guys are keeping your eyes open for what you think you might want for the 2025 season for your game. And now is the hunting season with all of that because you're in the snow caps, most likely, most of you, wherever you are, watching or listening to us, and you're doing your research. Well, we're going to give you a lot of information coming up, and we're going to do it outside. It's really cool. Carlsbad, California is the target on all of that. So anyway, you guys have a good one. Until we are together again, be well. Goodbye for now.